Hey, what is up, your Rainbow Royalty? I'm Ace Explains, and welcome back to another video. And today, I'm going to be covering kind of a controversial topic about xenogenders and if they are transphobic or not. So, as many of you probably know, I made a video on xenogenders in the past, and I was unaware that a lot of people do consider xenogenders to be transphobic. And I apologize for that. That is 100% my fault for not looking into the transphobia part of it. And today I want to clear the air on xenogenders and try to give you the most unbiased, neutral explanation on both sides of the argument and explain to you a potential solution to this issue. So I've done my research, and it is hard to find a lot of neutral, non-biased explanations of xenogender because a lot of people do have very strong opinions on both sides. So if you guys don't remember, xenogender is basically somebody that describes their gender through the usage of nouns or experiences or something along those lines, and it's often used by neurodivergent people. The argument against it is that it is transphobic because it uses these experiences and something that people would use to basically describe their gender as the actual gender identity itself. And people say that their gender is something that you feel or have like right after you're born. It is in your mind. And so when somebody is trans, for example, they know in their mind that they're non-binary, male, female, and their physical presentation does not fit that. And they make the argument that that is something that is hardwired in your brain, but using like experiences or nouns to describe your gender isn't a gender identity in itself. So that's the argument that basically shows how it is transphobic, because it is not really a gender identity in their eyes, because it is not this hardwired thing that works near or around the gender binary, because it's not female, male, androgynous, non-binary, or agender, so it doesn't fit in with what would be considered gender. Now, on the other side, people that argue for xenogenders are saying that they struggle to find words that fit in with how they feel about their gender, and so they use these nouns or experiences to describe their gender. So there's both sides of the argument there, and I'm not going to give my personal opinion on which one is right, but there has been a solution that has arisen through this, and that is the idea of a xenoidentity. In my previous video, I didn't make the important distinction between xenogender and xenoidentity, and the distinction is gender and identity. So gender is, if you have xenogender, that means that the person is using these experiences to describe their actual gender. Whereas with xenoidentity, they are using the identity to just describe their gender identity, if that makes any sense. So it's not their gender itself, it is rather used as a description on how they feel. So that's the important distinction between the two, and xenoidentity seems to be considered less transphobic, or not very transphobic. I haven't really found anything where somebody has said that xenoidentities are transphobic, but rather xenogenders, because the identities are being used to just describe how the person feels rather than saying that that is their actual gender. So for xenoidentities, they can just be used for comfort to describe themselves. For example, instead of saying you are like cat gender, you could say you're cat identity, which means that you're more so describing your personality, how you feel with that cat identity, rather than saying that your gender is basically a cat. So it makes that very important distinction, and it can be a solution to this issue between the gender and the identity part. And in the past, xenogender has been described as otherkin. That was kind of its origin, and this was something that was, again, kind of like xenoidentity, where it is more so describing how the person feels rather than saying that their gender is that specific thing. And based on the posts that I have seen from people, they found that maybe they didn't accept otherkin, but they were not considering it to be transphobic. But once it evolved to the term of xenogender, they considered it transphobic because, as I said, gender is something that is hardwired in your brain, and it has actual neurological feelings or effects. If you don't know, there has been a study that trans people actually have similar physical reactions to things as the gender identity that they identify with. So that kind of mixes in with this, where your gender is something that is something more near the binary and not necessarily an experience or a noun. So for otherkin, people would identify themselves as wolfkin or something like that, used to describe themselves kind of as non-human or a non-human personality or identity thing, but not a gender. Basically, the thing here is the gender versus the identity part. And I apologize if some people do find that even xenoidentity is transphobic, but I have seen posts from trans people who have said that they would be fine with xenoidentities, but the xenogender part is considered transphobic to them. Editor Ace popping in here to add a little bit more to this topic. So I did a little bit more research, and I want to not mislead you into thinking that it is not only xenogender individuals that are supporting the xenogender is not transphobic side. There are also non-binary or trans individuals that also do not believe that xenogenders are transphobic. So there is that aspect to it. And also I want to clarify a little bit more about xenogenders. So I know I said that people use the nouns or experiences to describe their gender, but I want to delve a little bit deeper into what that actually means. So what that means for the person is, take for example, if you're cat gender, it doesn't necessarily mean that the person says that their gender is a cat, but rather it is trying to describe the relationship that the person has with their gender. So the feeling associated with cats is also the feeling that they feel for their gender. And since it's often with neurodivergent people, this can make a lot of sense. For example, if somebody has synesthesia, where, for example, you say a word and they can smell it or something like that. So if you say the word Wednesday and they smell mint, it's kind of in that realm where their gender or how they experience it is able to be explained through these words or experiences. So that's just to clarify a little bit on this topic. So hopefully this gives you enough information to form your own opinion. Comments are going to be off on this video because this is such a controversial topic, and I don't want people getting upset or arguing about it. Basically, you have the sides, the xenogender, non-xenogender, or just, identity. Personally, in my opinion, I think that xenoidentity would probably be the best compromise to go with. But that's just my personal opinion, and since I am not trans, I don't really have a say in what is and what is not considered transphobic, because how somebody perceives this xeno-identity can be very upsetting, or it can be fine with them, and either way, that's okay. I just wanted to clear the light on this topic and give you guys some information from both sides so you can form your own opinion, and hopefully we can find a solution where everybody just feels comfortable. Again, I apologize for my previous video and not looking into this enough. I will definitely be sure to look more into stuff before I make a video on it. But thank you for watching, and I hope you were able to form an opinion on this topic and hopefully not get very upset, because I know this is a very upsetting topic, and I apologize if it did upset you. but thank you for watching.